Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Over the last few videos, I touched on talking about some of these masters individually, and there's a few of them that I would like to talk about maybe at some point, but I think that's enough for now. But today, in this video, I want to talk a little bit more about my view, and it's just my view, of the master-disciple relationship. Now, none of these masters, I'm going to start out the talk by saying this. Now, none of these masters want and desire devotion, including Maitreya. In fact, if you were to talk to one of these masters, I'm not speaking for them, but I'll speak for them on this, just on this one part. They would tell you to be devoted to helping save the hungry in the world rather than be devoted to them. So if you're a person who wants to be a devotee, be more of a devotee like Mother Teresa and put all your devotion into helping the poor and helping the hungry than giving it to any one of these masters. Now, they want you to be you. They want you to follow your own path. They want you to be true to who you are, not to follow them. And they're there to help and guide and assist as much as possible, and they always take the time to do that. They find the time to do that. Every time that I've needed help from Maitreya, he showed up to help, but he didn't, do anything for me. I have to still kind of do it myself, but he was there to kind of point the way kind of thing, like he always says. So in a kind of a tiny way, I'm kind of a microcosm of the world, where the way that Maitreya is going to relate to all of us, and even as a planet as a whole, Now, he's not going to do it for us. He's not going to desire our devotion or ask for our devotion. He's going to ask for our devotion only for helping out the world, and helping to save our environment and stuff. Give that your devotion, not to them, right? And so I say all that to say that I'm sure there's a lot of people when they hear Maitreya or they think Maitreya is the Antichrist or whatever, that one of their biggest fears is that Christianity is going to die out, or Maitreya wants Christianity to die out, maybe, or something like that, right? Well, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, Christianity will always have a place in the hearts and minds of all of us. In fact, probably even more so, because it will be more true to what the teachings of Jesus was originally than the distortions that the church put in after, if that makes any sense. But again, looking at these masters in terms of the relationship now, getting back on that topic, it was interesting for me to witness Benjamin Creme the times that I saw him. I feel like he really role modeled what it was like to have a true relationship with a master. And was he devoted to his master? Yes, he was, but yet he wasn't devoted to his master. In fact, I always got the sense from Benjamin Creme, if his master ever stopped for whatever reason, working with him, that Benjamin Creme would go on and just be fine. I don't think he would have really cared either way, but he was very devoted to it, only for the fact that they were working together to serve humanity. And that was really what the relationship that they had was all about. They both had a tremendous desire and a willingness and a bravery to serve humanity. His master couldn't do it for him. He had to do it himself. So, but yet, and Benjamin Creme had to get up every day to go do it, right? It wasn't his master that was doing it, it was Ben. But he assisted him from time to time. And the other thing too is when you look at, and like I always say, I'm walking a fine line by talking about this, but when you search on YouTube some of these masters, you're going to inevitably find people who make claims that they're receiving messages from these masters. Now, I'm not going to rattle off all the people who I think are fake and phony and big fat phonies and those who are real, but it's for you to decide. But I would just say, look at the quality of the information first, and then if your heart tells you that it's true, then it's true for you, I guess. But The thing that I will say about this, about a real relationship with, like Benjamin Creme had with his master, for instance, right? It didn't just fall in his lap. His master had to work with him. And according to Benjamin Creme, for years, I think, he worked up maybe 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, to try to forge that relationship with his master to where he was able to do what he could do. It didn't come, it wasn't anything that just innately Ben could do. Now, he had the ability to be able to do it because he was Benjamin Creme, and who Benjamin Creme was. But the average person couldn't do that. And then the other thing is, I've watched videos where people assume that Maitreya or Benjamin Creme's master, which a lot of times I think they kind of lump the two of them together, even though they're two different people, two different masters. But they say that as a Maitreya or a Benjamin Creme's master is a figment of his imagination, and there's no way, there's no way that a figment of someone's imagination is going to put them through the training that his master did 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for years to forge a relationship. It wouldn't have happened, So the quality is different, and it's the same thing with Alice Bailey. She had to work her way to be able to do what she could do to receive the direct communication telepathically from the master DK. Now, they didn't have the same kind of relationship, I think, that Benjamin Creme and his master had. I think they just worked more telepathically, But Benjamin Creme's master and Ben, their relationship was like I said, a slight touch even, or a look could, instead of it coming from Ben, it could be coming from his master at any moment. Whenever his master willed it, he could do that. And just because a disciple like Alice Bailey or Mozart or some of these other disciples were receiving direct telepathic communication from these masters, they might not have had that close of a relationship as like Benjamin Creme had with his master. And I know I think Ben asked his master if his master had other people like that, and his master, I think, if I remember, said he had a few, but not very many. So, but Benjamin Creme never knew who they were. But he said that he had others he had that kind of relationship with. Now, I'm not saying that Alice Bailey didn't have that kind of relationship, but she never spoke about her relationship with the Master DK that way. But when you search these videos on YouTube, getting back to this, the quality information is not there like it is with people like Benjamin Creme, or they don't dictate out page after page after page of very detailed schematics of esotericism, that reads almost like a legal contract. It's so detailed. It just doesn't come like that. The information that Alice Bailey got was coming directly from a mind of a master. Same thing with Benjamin Creme. It was just of a different master, so it reads differently. But I always say I'm not a betting man, but I'd be willing to bet you that these people who say that they channel these masters, none of them did any work to get that to go, And so it's all coming from the emotional, the emotions. And so anything from the emotional world can't be trusted, to be honest. And so it might be a very fine, higher quality, or it might be very, enlightening in quotation marks, but in the end, it's not real. And so these masters they never work on the emotional planes like that. There's only one time that they did, and that was when the Master Jesus wrote the Course of Miracles to the disciple who came up with the Course of Miracles. He actually used the emotional plane to get it done. But that was, according to Benjamin Creme, the only time that any one of these masters ever used the emotional plane to send out information to the world. And so every other time, it's always been on the mental plane. And so disciples have to be of a certain caliber to be able to do that. To look historically, you look at Mozart, right? Mozart was overshadowed by his master many times when he wrote his compositions and stuff. And it was interesting. Benjamin Creme commented about this one time. He said actually he did not hear the music. He saw it on a board lying flat, and it wasn't written out like notes. It was written out differently. But, and I don't know exactly what that looked like, but Benjamin Creme just says Mozart saw it and his mind translated it into music, and that's how he came up with the concertos and the operas that he did in the way that he did. And then you look at, they even commented on it a little bit on the which was historical fiction, but there were some historical facts to it about Mozart and Amadeus, where Salieri said when you looked at his first editions, there was no editing. It was all, he said it was like it was being dictated to him, and in a real sense it was by his master. Same thing with Shakespeare. You look at first edition Shakespeare's writings, and there's no corrections to it. It's all perfect. And it's the quality of the work of these masters working through these disciples on the level that they're doing. Now, in the future, I'm sure more and more people will have that kind of rapport and that relationship with those masters. Right now, it's not that many, it's just a few. Our relationship as average humanity is going to be looking to them, on TV, getting that kind of information that way on the radio or via the internet. Others, maybe slightly higher than average humanity, might be mentally impressed. And I don't mean impressed like, wow, that's really cool, but, sometimes these, disciples who aren't able to be overshadowed, they just wake up in the middle of the night and like, oh my gosh, I got an idea for something, that's how you create the light bulb, right? Or whatever, right? And those ideas were put there by these masters. It's not the same as overshadowing. It's a lower level, but they're mentally impressed. Their minds are mentally impressed by these masters to come up with a scientific or invention or a scientific breakthrough or some type of artistry or some type of music or something like that, or political idea or social idea or something like that for change or something like that. But it was all put in there by the true muse, which was the master. But they're not being communicated to directly mentally, because most people don't have the ability to do what Benjamin Creme or Mozart or Shakespeare or Alice Bailey or Blavatsky or Helena Roerich or Krishnamurti could do. Like I said, but most of us, our relationship with these masters and the way that we'll get the inspiration from them is seeing them on TV, seeing them when they come to our cities on tours or whatever like that. I'm sure especially Maitreya is going to tour all over the world. And you'll be able to travel to see him if maybe you'll be lucky enough to come to Atlanta, and I can just roll out of bed and get in my car and drive down to where he is and see him that way or something, right? But for the most part, it's not going to come the way that these people, like most of these people get their information, like Benjamin Creme or something. But I had touched on this in a previous video that, but right now Maitreya, of course, is speaking incognito and is not claiming to be Maitreya in the interviews, right? But that's not going to be forever. He's not going to keep going like this forever. Eventually, he's going to declare himself before the world, and he's going to do it on the day of declaration, where the media, after a certain time, hopefully it's not too much longer. It might be a few years. I don't know. I don't have a date, but the people will demand that the news media, allow Maitreya to speak to them. And when he does this on this day, and only on this day, he is going to overshadow the entire world. So all of us, average humanity, even people who are below average humanity, as long as you're above the age of 14, you will be overshadowed by Maitreya. And so most of us can't be overshadowed by Maitreya individually at this point in our career as human beings, right? But eventually, hopefully, maybe one day, hundreds of years from now, 1,000 years from now, or whatever, you might be evolved enough to be able to, or me or whoever, I don't know. I'm not saying you personally, but anyway, but you get my point. But on this day of days is the day that Maitreya will communicate via overshadowing for the entire world. So if you want to know what overshadowing is like, just live long enough to to see Maitreya on TV on the day of declaration, and then we'll know, right? We'll all know. And as always, take action. Help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos. Have a great day.